Good evening. My name is Julie McLaughlin. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and our superintendent, we welcome our community members, students, staff, and guests to the September 2025 regular meeting of the Lovejoy ISD Board of Trustees. The time is now, 7:05, and the board is returning to open session. We are resuming our agenda at item number 4, and as there is no action to be taken on matters discussed in closed session, we will proceed to agenda item 5, which is our opening exercise and pledges. We welcome Ms. Wagner, principal of Puster Elementary.
My name is Chrissy Wagner, and I am the proud principal of Puster Elementary. Tonight, I have the pleasure of introducing one of our exceptional Leopard leaders of 4th grade, Mercy Bell Weidman. Mercy Bell is a student who truly shines both inside and out. Her peers and teacher alike describe her as a beacon of love and kindness, always spreading positivity and encouragement wherever she goes. When asked why or what she loves most about Puster, Mercy Bell said, "It's just my happy place." And it is with great pride that I introduce and present to you Mercy Bell Weidman.
Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. You may have a seat.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is recognitions. We begin our meetings by recognizing key celebrations of our students, staff, and schools because they are at the heart of our mission as a board. These moments remind us why we're here, which is to support educational excellence, student success, and the strength of our district. Tonight, we will recognize our National Merit Program. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. It's my pleasure tonight to recognize some outstanding students here in Lovejoy ISD. Lovejoy is proud to announce 24 students have been recognized in the 2026 National Merit Scholarship Program, an annual academic competition for recognition in college scholarships conducted by the National Merit Scholarship Corporation. I'm going to introduce Mr. Justin Wheeler, high school principal here in Lovejoy, and he is going to expand further on how our students receive this recognition and also recognize our students.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Cordell, community members. So I am honored to be here tonight to introduce our 24 high school students that are recognized as by the National Merit Scholarship Program. Students, if you can come up here and join me real quick. All right, some background about our students that are recognized. So each year, over 1.3 million high school juniors took the 2024 preliminary SAT or National Merit Scholarship qualifying test and met requirements to enter the 2026 National Merit Scholarship Program. From the 50,000 highest scores nationwide, approximately 34,000 students are being commended for their performance on the PSAT NMSQT. So congratulations to these Lovejoy High School commended students. So students, when I call your name, come up and be recognized. Zayan Alam. James Bagnat. These tend to be our most involved students, which is probably why they're not here today. Bryce Brissett. Alice Chi. Lucas Hursley. Grace Hugh. Harper James. Maddox Johnson. Pragnya Kotra. Ethan Liao. Noel McGill. Jordan Paulus. Morgan Powell. Manas Ray. Max Ratliff. Colt Whitfill. And Caroline Wilkins. In addition to our commended students, approximately 16,000 of the 50,000 highest scoring students have been designated as semifinalists in the 71st National Merit Scholarship Program, representing less than 1% of U.S. high school seniors and the top scorers in each state. These semifinalists will have an opportunity to continue in the competition for about 6,930 National Merit Scholarships worth nearly $26 million to be offered in the spring of 2026. We are pleased to announce these 7 students from Lovejoy High School. Carson Dykstra. Nolan Finnegan. Andrew Lamping. Shalok Navathi. Sorry, I'm going to go again. Hold on. Sorry. Navanitha Krishnan. Pranav Pamadarthi. Keshav Subhash. And Ben Sussman. One more round of applause for these students.
Thank you. All right, we're to agenda item number 7, public comments. Ms. Taylor, do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am, there are no public comments this evening.
All right, thank you. With no public comments submitted, we will proceed with our agenda. Agenda item number 8, we have a celebration of learning presentation, which spotlights the fantastic teaching and learning happening in our Lovejoy classrooms. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you, President McLaughlin. It is an honor tonight to recognize another one of our impressive teachers here in the district, and she is going to have the opportunity to share with you the focused on student growth and the impact that it's having in her classroom. Mrs. Dodd, Tori Dodd, is a fourth grade teacher at Hart Elementary, and Tori has served as a leader for other teachers on the campus and in the district too. So I'm honored tonight to have Tori and Mrs. Acosta, the principal, here tonight. So just as a reminder, what we focus on here when we talk about high levels of learning, we're focusing on our 3 non-negotiables, that we're ensuring that we have rigorous standards and aligned instruction. We also have active and engaged student learning, and then we have assessment for learning to drive instruction. And tonight our focus is going to be on assessment and how we are utilizing MAP growth to drive student goal setting and accelerating student learning. We want to tie this back also to our Lovejoy 2030 strategic plan, and one of our targets was to provide opportunities for student goal setting and reflection on their progress. So you will hear from Mrs. Acosta and also Mrs. Dodd about the student goal setting and the impact that it's having on our students at Hart. So I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Acosta.
It's on, but I can talk loud. So what is MAP growth? MAP growth, when we look at MAP, it's an adaptive computer test that actually does real-time performance assessment of our students. So as the students take the assessment, when they answer a question correctly, they are presented with more challenging questions. If they answer the question incorrectly, then the test diverts it to easier questions so that it can truly measure the student's ability at that time. Then what happens is we get that data and we're able to assess it to see what is their achievement and where is their growth needs. So we're able to truly in real time assess where our students are. So when we look at MAP growth, we're looking at measuring that student's growth over the year. The achievement is how well is that student doing individually compared to students nationwide. So it's regardless of their grade level, it's just they're compared to nationwide. The growth is what we really want to focus on because it's based on their individual needs and their performance. And that's where you'll hear how Ms. Dodd has really pioneered the growth setting, goal setting with our students, and then also empowering our teachers K through 3 on how to look at that MAP growth to get our students moving forward. The difference between the standardized STAR test and MAP is given over 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end. So we're able to track their student growth in real time to assess and look at the gaps we need to fill and how to continue to enrich them. So that data gives us immediate response, where STAR is a one-time deal that just measures the students at that time at grade level proficiency. MAP truly allows us to see what the student needs and how to grow them. And then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dodd, who's done an amazing work with our students and our staff when it comes to MAP.
So in my 4th grade GT classroom, one of the big things that I get a lot from parents when that first conference comes or when we have is, my child is a high achieving child, but they're not showing growth. So how do we get them to show growth in the MAPS test? So we want to show that full year's growth. So one thing that my team did last year is we recognized that within there, a lot of times kids don't understand how to take this test. It's different than a STAR test. And so we really go through with them. There's some videos that MAP puts out that kind of tells what the test is. And then another one of the things that we do is we talk about the three little bears, Goldilocks and the 3 bears. And so we tell them that this test is not to test what you know on the standards that we have, it's to see what your knowledge is. And so you are guaranteed to get 50% of the questions wrong. And that's hard for them, especially your high achieving students. They really don't understand that they can't be perfect at it. And so they really, really struggle when it comes to the test. So the first thing we do is we talk to them about the test, and then we conferred with every single child. We called them up to our table, we looked at their all the scores that they've had. We talk to them about their RIT score, which is the score that they're given, where are they falling in each category, and then just letting them know, hey, these type of questions are the questions that you're missing the most. So how can we make sure that when we're answering these type of questions that we're really focusing in? And so that's me pulling a student over and looking at their end of the year third grade score before we did the beginning of the year MAP test, just so they know this is where I'm at. Because a lot of times it would just take a conversation with them to be like, okay, now I know what I need to do. I know what questions I need to focus in on. And then from there, they go on and take the test. So when they're taking the test, I noticed that a lot of my students would spend long minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, just staring at a question because they wouldn't give up on themselves and they wouldn't just move on. But it's like, okay, you don't understand this. It's okay to move on. And so just talking them through how to do that. So one way that I found is having a parking lot. So they have a sticky note beside them, and any words that they don't know, it's just that transfer of putting it here and then standing up and putting it on a wall, and now I can make a guess and I can move on. Because when we first started giving this test, no joke, it took our kids like 2, 3, 4 days to even get through a 40-question test because they would not give up on a question. So how can we get them to move forward? End of the year last year, I had some fourth graders having sine and cosine questions. It's like, you don't even know what that is. Like, just guess and move on. And so the parking lot has really helped them transfer that so that they can just move on with the next question. And then once we finish with a test, then we take that data and we look at where they're falling. So are they showing growth? Are they not showing growth? This is one of the main reports that we use. So the red students are your low achieving students and low growth. The orange section is low achieving, but they are making significant growth. The yellow is your higher achieving students, but aren't showing growth, and the green are high achieving, high growth. So we really want to focus in on a couple of specific areas. The yellow specifically, we really want to focus in on those that are achieving high but aren't making that year's growth to figure out what standards are holding them back. And so we kind of group those students together and we form groups of, okay, what holes do you have within your learning so we can fill those gaps and we can move forward with that higher achieving. The orange students we also look at because they are making significant growth. So how can we get those students into the green section in order to make that growth? So we take all of that data as a team, we look at our leopard time groups, and that's where we're really trying to figure out what works with students. And so this is me pulling some small groups based on that data and filling those holes.
And so I did not mention this, but Mrs. Dodd, she serves as the gifted and talented teacher in fourth grade. So she has a self-contained classroom, and so these are all going to be high achievers in her classroom. So and the results that at the end of the year, the growth was significant. And as she mentioned, sometimes our higher achievers, it's more difficult to see the growth over time. So the strategies that she has put in place, we do feel like has made an impact on motivating our high achievers, and also strategies so that that what she shared about students wanting to not move on until they could answer that question correctly is what has popped up across the district with quite a few of our students. So we have, Tori has done some training at the campus with staff, and we're utilizing her to offer some training also throughout the district with our K-12 teachers.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come. Oh, do you have a question? Yep, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say thank you so much for coming. And I know firsthand from having Miss Dodd for one of my children that she does a great job offering parents advice and suggestions. And I know this map data came today to a lot of parents' inboxes. Is there anything that you would offer up to parents, just suggestions as they're looking at that data and understanding it?
I think really it's just looking at your kid and how are they tackling that. Like, letting them know that this is important, because a lot of times they're like, oh, it's just another test, it doesn't really matter, it doesn't count to my GPA. So just letting them know too that this is what we're looking at and this is why we're looking at it and this is what it's showing. Because a lot of times the gaps, when I would call my students over, looking at the gaps where they're falling within, because it gives us our standards, I'll pull it up and be like, it says that you don't know how to add and subtract numbers to 20 using pictorial models. And they're like, what? I know how to do that. Like, yeah, I know. But when you're rushing through some of these questions, just making them aware of the things that they're missing and why. It doesn't give us specific questions, but it gives us kind of a standard within that area so that we can focus in on, hey, even if the question's easy or the passage is easy, like those matter, because a lot of times those are their gaps that are holding them back from showing that significant growth.
And I think too, it'd be important for parents to know that it is compared nationwide. So this is their own individual child's on how they're doing on what's presented for that grade level. And that as we continue to grow, we're looking for the growth over the 3 administrations. This isn't just a one and done. So it's what are those gaps? And like Ms. Dodd said, there's ways for us as we use that data to see what are the gaps from the younger grades. So 4th can literally pull up what are gaps from 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and kinder, and that's how we help fill in those holes as well as enrich.
Are there correlations, or how high are the correlations on the comparative percentile data to like the STAR testing at the end of the year? Does that correlate as we go along, or?
Well, we make the comparison, it's based on the 50th, so we look at a national norm, so it's sort of like a bell curve. So we want our students meeting the 50th percentile or higher. So that would be the comparison. You can't correlate it as clearly as you do the STAR. That's a great question. So we look at how our students are performing at the national norm.
Thank you so much for taking your evening with us. We appreciate it. All right, trustees, we'll move forward in our agenda. Agenda item number 9. Mr. Bobo, would you please lead our invocation?
Bow with me. Dear God, thank you so much for this time that we have together tonight to consider and act and ponder about our school district. Help us to make the right decisions. Help us to be mindful of every student, all 4,000 students that we have in our school district, and all of the staff and all of the administration that helps keep this school district running well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Agenda item number 10, notifications. So trustees, your board book for the meeting today contains notifications of new hires, resignations, public information requests, and cabinet reports. Are there any questions or comments on these items? Hearing none, I will move on. Agenda item number 11 is our consent agenda. So trustees, your board book for the meeting today contains consent agenda items, including prior meeting minutes, our recurring monthly finance report, and various vendor or intra-district MOUs. Item number 11H is a minor wording change to board policy EIF local, which we had a presentation on and then discussed at our September 17th board workshop. Are there any questions on these items, or is there an item that a trustee would like pulled for separate consideration? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion, Mr. Wheelis.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bobo. Are there any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Agenda item number 12. Our board activity calendar calls for a programmatic review in the month of September. Programmatic reviews support the board's duty of oversight over major student programs of the district. Tonight's topic will be a presentation on the Lovejoy Gifted and Talented Program. Dr. Tinsley.
Okay, now we're here. Thank you. I have the pleasure tonight of providing you an update on our Lovejoy Gifted and Talented program and services we provide here in Lovejoy. Want to lift up what our philosophy is about Lovejoy Gifted and Talented is that we believe all children learn information to mastery level, and we are dedicated to quality instruction at all ability levels. We understand that we may need to provide differentiation or a different environment or instruction for students to learn best. And to ensure this, we provide gifted and talented services that offer a differentiated curriculum that is both advanced and enriched for our identified gifted learners. So just an overview of our program goals is that the emphasis is on higher level thinking, also on product-oriented outcomes that we want for our students to develop creativity, to develop complex decision-making. We provide for emotional growth by developing positive self-concept, self-acceptance, independence, risk-taking, self-evaluation skills, and self-directed and autonomous learning. So just a review of the program models we use here in Lovejoy. We serve students beginning in kindergarten through all the way through 12th grade. So in grades K through 3, we have a GT pull-out teacher who serves both kindergarten students through 3rd grade, both at Hart and at Puster Elementary. The general education classroom teacher provides additional instruction using extensions or enriched curriculum as appropriate. So our goal is to ensure that we are building capacity with the classroom teacher, so when the GT teacher does not have the students through a pull-out, that we are providing that enrichment and extension through the learning that's occurring in those classrooms. So we do cluster these students in certain teachers' classrooms. And in kindergarten, we begin identifying kindergarten in the 2nd semester. So our GT pull-out teacher goes in and does a co-teach lesson with the classroom teacher, and that is focused primarily on the depth and complexity learning model and the strategies that we would like to see going on in those classrooms. For 4th through 6th grades, we have more of an integrated studies program. So in both of those grade levels, we have teachers that a teacher teaches social studies and language arts, and then science and math. And again, these students are, we do self-contain them into a classroom, and the GT teacher is the teacher of record in the classroom. So we ensure that that teacher has the skills and the training necessary to support our GT learners. We do have an accelerated and enriched curriculum in the area of math, which also incorporates learning experiences in science. And again, the GT teacher is the teacher of record for mathematics and science. For 7th and 8th grade, you do see some similarities through over at the middle school. However, our students are, they participate in, if they're participating in GT language arts, they also receive social studies services, and the same if they're participating in math, which is accelerated, they receive science services. If a student qualifies for just one core content area, they still have the option of selecting to participate in any content area that is for a GT classroom. And again, the accelerated math and 7th grade advanced GT, that is an Algebra 1 course. So it covers the content of Algebra 1, and they are administered the Algebra 1 star in 7th grade. In 8th grade, our students receive advanced GT geometry, which covers the geometry course, and they are served in a single block class. So students, our GT students can earn credits for both Algebra 1 and geometry at Willow. And then at high school, there are some similarities that you will see happening similar to Willow Springs. Many times you will find that students have the opportunity that they will enroll in AP/GT courses. So that again is we group our students, our GT students in those AP courses, in the English, social studies, and history courses. And then in the math, they'll automatically, if they're in math, they are automatically placed in a GT science classroom. And again, if a student qualifies in one core content area, we do not limit that for them to participate. They have the option of participating in all core content areas. We also have a few students that engage in independent studies. So that means if students have an interest in a specific area, we want to provide them the opportunity for independent and extended research. So we process this through an application process, and they submit a study proposal to be accepted into the course. So, and throughout the year, these students present their findings through their research. So just an overview of our GT funding. Lovejoy ISD, we budget annually, our expenses are approximately $1.5 million. We received from the state funding around $77,800. There is a cap of 5% on ADA and 7% of the basic allotment. Our program enrollment, I wanted to give you over the last 5 years, we've stayed fairly steady on the percentage of our students that meet eligibility for gifted and talented services here in Lovejoy. We are thrilled to engage in a partnership with Baylor University, their Center for Gifted and Education and Talent Development. They are a recognized leader in gifted education, and we have already began some work with them through some professional development for our teachers that we conducted prior to school beginning for our GT teachers. We also offer opportunities and resources for our GT students and their families through some camps and workshops that our students have the option through the Baylor TIP program. We also have partnered with Baylor on offering some parent education opportunities that we'll be providing later this school year. Moving forward, what our goal is with Baylor is that we are going to be evaluating they're going to be assisting us in evaluating our GT program. Also looking at our ways that we can develop what we would want to focus on is a GT learner profile. Rather than getting bogged down in the program model, what is the learning outcomes that we want for our GT learners? And what that looks like in the classroom and how we are serving them in that manner. Just want to lift up some of the enrichment opportunities. We've had STEM Fest here in Lovejoy for many years. We are going to expand that this year by having some of our secondary students conducting some of the experiments at STEM Fest, so we're excited about increased engagement from our secondary students, and that's scheduled in January. And we have hosted for the past 2 to 3 years a GT showcase, student showcase, and that has been for kindergarten through 6th grade. We are expanding that this year for our 12th graders, and the focus will be on inventions. So we are working closely with our teachers at high school in Willow Springs to help guide our students with developing inventions, and of course the same at the primary grades or K through 6. I just wanted to lift up some of the parent education opportunities. We're partnering with the Lovejoy Gifted Association on an upcoming parent education this Thursday, Understanding Your Child's Brain, Neurosocial Development, and then in November we will have Dr. Todd Kettler, who's the Executive Director of the Baylor TIP and the Center for Gifted Education and Talent Development. He will be presenting to our parents on helping gifted students flourish. And then starting in February, before our students register for courses, we wanted to focus on when we're looking at college and career pathways. This focus will be through the college admissions process, and again, this is a partnership with Baylor, Dr. Cheryl Talaferro, who is an expert in the field of college admissions and preparing our students for that pathway. And then we are honored to be able to host the Baylor University Gifted and Talented Parent Conference. This has traditionally been held in Waco, and we were approached by Baylor to see if we were interested in hosting, and we are thrilled that they inquired, and that will be held in February.
Dr. Tinsley, I had heard that Lovejoy has a higher concentration of GT learners than potentially nearby districts. Is that a true statement in your experience?
I would have to really look at the percentages. That's a really great question. We do have a fairly high percentage of students. I can get that information for you at another time, but we do have quite a few families that actually have sought out Lovejoy because of our Gifted and Talented program that have moved here. We do quite a few of our scholars. Over the summer, as we were accepting new scholars, we had quite a few that that had been identified in their previous district as gifted and talented that were transferring into our district.
And then I'd like to take a look at the numbers that are on the page too. So that 1.5 million of expenses, that is how you're required to budget.
Correct.
But if, for whatever reason, we didn't offer GT services, which I know we always will, those students, that would not be a net decrease to our budget, correct? Because those students would still need to be served in other classrooms?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So it's not the incremental, but the revenue funding there is the incremental that is on top of a basic allotment for that child that is because of their GT coding? Okay.
And those numbers are going to be changing, or is that just special ed changing? But were there any GT changes with the recent? Is it special ed?
And I think, as we take a look at all of our programs, we've looked at the students that we serve, the costs, the goals of the program. Could you speak to just how we assess the efficacy of the program and the strengths of the program? Is that through our MAP growth data, or is that part of your work with Baylor?
That's certainly part of the MAP is one of them, because we want to see growth with all levels of students. I think that is part of also what we're doing with Baylor when we conducted a parent survey, a GT survey. There are some tools that they will be bringing in to work with us to assess our program effectiveness. So I'll be bringing more of that forward to the board as we work more closely with Baylor on that. Baylor was very eager to work with Lovejoy and see it as an opportunity to help support some of the research that they are doing in the area of gifted education.
So the high school credit that they get for the algebra or geometry, are those the only two courses that give them that high school credit? But then my understanding is those courses, when they're taken at the middle school, do not count for GPA. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And are there other courses that are like that where they could get credit but it's not counted, or is that pretty unique in that situation?
That's pretty unique. I mean, I would say, well, if you take middle school courses, if you're receiving high school course credit at the middle school level, that will not move forward to your GPA. We've had that also with some of our CTE courses as well. They'll receive credit for it, but it cannot be calculated in their GPA.
And I understand there's some recent legislation that's changing some of the GPA calculations, so some of that could change
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that we get in touch with our kindergartners in that second semester. Do we pre-screen all of those kindergartners, or is it parents that take the initiative?
We pre-screen all of the students. There is an assessment that we administer to our students with pre-screening.
Thank you for the presentation. Appreciate it. All right, we're moving to agenda item 13. We have a homecoming update. Dr. Zambezi.
Members of the board, Superintendent Cordell, thank you for having me tonight. And I'm extremely excited to share an update about the 2025 inaugural homecoming parade in Lovejoy ISD. As you know, Lovejoy ISD is an amazing place, and our high school has now been open for 20 years. And so a really, really exciting time to start this tradition. It will be October 6th from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at Heritage Ranch. The parade will feature floats, fine arts performances, athletics teams, school-sponsored student groups that are actually participating in the parade from our high school. And all of our Lovejoy community members are encouraged to head out to Heritage Ranch and cheer on our Leopards. A comprehensive email and social media post will be shared with more details and logistics and directions on October 1st. Obviously, we've been working with our fine arts directors, our head coaches, and those internal emails have gone out, and so they are doing all of the things internally to make sure this is as organized and safe as possible. But then that big community post will head out on October 1st. Just some background information. Our LHS students that are actually participating in the parade will travel from Lovejoy ISD facilities and back on our buses, and we've been partnering with transportation on that. All participating students and community attendees will need to adhere to the safety guidelines that have been shared internally and will also be in the post. A really, really important thing that I wanted everyone in this room and also the community to know, if our students or our participants are going to be throwing candy, giving candy out, we're actually going to be handing candy, and we need to stay at least 4 feet away from our floats or our Suburbans and our trailers and things like that. Attendees are asked to stay on the sidewalk, and we need to make sure that our younger leopards are well supervised, and so that will all be in there. And then on the next slide, this is a map of Scenic Ranch Circle, and so I do have the mouse right here, and so the parade route, here's the clubhouse down here, and the parade route actually will follow this Scenic Ranch Circle all the way around, and they'll do one loop. Our contacts at Heritage Ranch have been working hard. We've been meeting with them, and they'll be lining the floats up in front of that clubhouse right there, and then we'll do the loop. And why we want to carpool and make sure that logistics are as clean as they can be on this is because we want to stay off the parade route by a certain time, right? And we need to actually utilize the side streets for parking. So park on side streets all along this area. There is if you're here early, this is where I parked last year at a similar event down here on Caballero Court. But any of these side streets are available. So get there, park, stay on the sidewalk, and then wait for our parade of leopards to come by. And we cannot wait for October 6th to get here. Any questions?
So don't throw candy. Hand the candy.
Hand the candy, yes,
Got
ma'am.
it. Got it. Well, we're excited of the event that you're planning, our very first one, so thank you for giving us that update.
Absolutely.
All right, agenda item number 14, our board legislative committee will present an update. I'll open the floor.
Thank you. The committee met recently, our first meeting of our newly formed committee, and looked a lot like our old committee. But so we've started the process of we're going to be reviewing our board priorities and charter as we do annually. So if there's any feedback from the board or community about what our priorities should look like in the coming year, this is going to be an off-session year. As you remember, the legislative session only meets every other year in Texas. They meet for 140 days, and it's coming up only 16 months away now. So that's what we're getting ready for. And I think one of the things we're going to be doing as we continue these meetings with the committee, we're going to be focused on putting together a calendar for the committee to follow to get more organized on our process. And part of that calendar is going to be figuring out who we want to meet with. Meeting with the legislators and our representatives is sometimes, I wouldn't even say sometimes, I think it's most of the time more productive in an off legislative calendar year. So we're going to be working on putting that together. We've already set up a couple of meetings, and we're going to be looking forward to providing additional updates as the committee continues to work on developing those priorities and having these meetings with our representatives.
Back on priorities. I think our list of priorities has probably been somewhat the same over the last couple of years, right?
I think we've gotten more focused and tried to figure out where we can actually be effective. So we are going to continue to refine that and try to focus on those areas where we think we can have direct impact.
Option could also be just walking through maybe some of the unintended impacts to some of the legislation that was passed, and providing some examples of how that impacted our students, and see if we can have any impact.
We're going to have a
on
large body of legislation to give feedback on, I'm sure.
Open to some minor revisions here or there for clarity. All right, thank you very much for the update. All right, agenda item number 15, consider an act on the Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee Charter. So trustees, please recall that Ms. Cordell provided an update on our Lovejoy 2030 strategic plan and its planned refreshment process at our September 17th board workshop. We spoke about the board's role in the strategic planning process, the importance of the strategic plan in defining our path forward as a district, and maintaining our legacy of excellence. Included in the proposed refreshment process is a reconvening of the Lovejoy 2030 Strategic Planning Committee. On September 17th, Ms. Cordell explained the proposed committee charter and membership and the tentative timeline to meet and update the strategic plan. In the interest of an efficient meeting, rather than stepping through that attached materials a second time, I'll propose that we move directly to deliberations, and I'll open the floor for any questions or comments. Not all at once. There we go.
Well, I'm excited that we're revisiting this 2030 update. And I love the presentation that presented last time. I didn't see any changes from the last time in this slide deck from the last time. And so with that, I'd like to move that we approve this charter. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So board, one additional point of discussion we have on this item is the board's participation in the Lovejoy 2030 process. Under board policy BDF local, advisory committee meetings may also include board participation and numbers less than a quorum of the board. I'd like to check if we're in agreement that we would each rotate through these meetings up to 3 at a time, which has been our typical past practice. And I think we have consensus. Thank you. Item number 16, consider an act on the 2025-26 School Health Advisory Council Resolution and Membership. This evening, the board will consider membership in the SHAC, which is a state-mandated committee that brings parents and community members together to provide input on health curriculum items and student wellness programs in our schools. SHAC membership is a standing agenda item in the August-September timeframe, which is why we have it on the agenda today. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. So just an overview, what is SHAC? It's the School Health Advisory Council. It's a school board appointed advisory group of individuals who represent different segments of the community. The reason we have a SHAC or a School Health Advisory Council, number one, it's the requirement of our Texas law. It's also to support healthy habits in our children and to support them in their learning. It's also an important role of teaching our students health habits, and then supporting our homes and our schools throughout a healthy environment. It also indicates that research shows that healthy children do better in school. It helps with attendance and behaviors, which overall leads to improved performance. So the requirements of the resolution, within the 87th legislative session, the state of Texas requires school districts to utilize the SHAC and the adoption of curriculum materials for any of the following topics. So what we've listed there are some of the primary ones is the human sexuality curriculum, child abuse, family violence, dating violence, sex trafficking, and prevention of abuse and addiction to fentanyl. So just to kind of give you an update on where we are, so 2 years ago we adopted a human sexuality curriculum for our students that begins in grades 5th grade through high school. We are going to be, the committee will be asked to revisit that this year because we are looking at new curriculum at the high school level. So the SHAC will need to review that and make a recommendation to the Board of Trustees on that. We also are going to be looking at the last bullet there on the prevention of abuse and addiction to fentanyl, a curriculum to support instruction in those areas. We have primarily at our secondary schools, we cover training with our students on child abuse, family violence, dating violence, and sex trafficking. On receiving this instruction, students are required to opt in for the human sexuality instruction and through our health courses. And then through our, and also the dating violence is a required opt-in. The others, such as suicide prevention that we offer at our middle school level, that is an opt-out. But just to kind of give you some background on our curriculum there. So the board is required to adopt a resolution convening the School Health Advisory Council for the purpose of making recommendations regarding curriculum materials. The SHAC holds at least a minimum of 2 public meetings before adopting the recommendations. They provide it to the Board of Trustees at a public board meeting, and then the board is requested to take action on the adoption of the recommendations by a record vote at a public meeting. So by law, a majority of the members of the SHAC must be persons who are parents of students enrolled in the district and not employed by the district. So the Lovejoy ISD SHAC is made up of parents, community members, school staff, and students to support improved health of all students and families through a coordinated health program. Steps we have taken as a district to identify membership, we made sure that we had communication to advertise the School Health Advisory Council and the opportunity to be a member and indicate interest, so that we ran that information through Connect with Katie over several weeks. We also had it in our campus and principal newsletters with our parents, and then it was also posted on the district website. They were asked to those who were interested were asked to complete a Google form. We were collecting information such as the role, the campus, whether the person had children in Lovejoy schools, if they were residents of the community, also if they were new to Lovejoy, and then professional expertise, and then also why they would like to serve on the SHAC. What we have done is reviewed the interested members using a rubric to develop a balanced group for the district, and want to ensure that we have broad campus representation, that all of our campuses are represented. We have we have a returning member that we're recommending, and then just ensuring that we have a variety of backgrounds represented on the SHAC as well. So when we look at that, we're looking at nursing, psychology, physical fitness, teaching experiences, understanding the curriculum, student perspective, and then a district perspective as well too, to support that. So we are requesting that you approve the resolution and then the SHAC membership.
Trustees, you have a copy of the resolution and the proposed membership. Are there any questions?
So it represents also across all of the campuses?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Hearing none, at this time, board, I will entertain a motion.
Move to approve the resolution and the new members as recommended.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 17 is to consider an act on House Bill 3, which is our early childhood literacy, early childhood math, college and career military readiness, proficiency goals, and progress measures. So this agenda item supports compliance with Board Policy EA Legal, which outlines the board's duty to adopt specific measurable goals in these areas. Trustees, we received a detailed presentation in our September 17th board workshop on student achievement, as well as a preview of the proposed HB3 goals. In the interest of an efficient meeting, rather than stepping through the agenda materials fully for a second time, I propose that we skip ahead in the presentation to focus on just the additional material that was provided, which compares 2024 and 2025 achievement data. Dr. Tinsley, if that's amenable to you.
Absolutely. So since we establish these goals based on the third grade STAR assessment and then also the CCMR, we provided some additional information so you could see comparisons between 2024 results and 2025. Keeping in mind that this is not comparing the same group of students, it's a different group of students. So when we look at the third grade, you can see across the board here, this is reading. So you can see what the performance was in 2024 and 2025. So we have listed here approach, meets, and masters. Our goals are established on the meets percentage or higher. So as you can see, we had some areas where we made some growth, but we also had some areas where we lost growth as well too. Our percentages decreased. Are there any questions about their reading performance?
I know we mentioned in the last meeting we have that Tier 2 added support. Is that only at elementary?
Right now, we are offering that at elementary, yes.
So if we see some needs, I mean, we see some decreases in the older grades, would that be something we consider adding at the older grades, or do we have other support measures in mind?
I think some of the support measures we're putting in place too is that we're ensuring that our students that we're identified that are not performing on grade level are getting daily small group instruction, targeted instruction, and that would be up through all of our grade levels that we would like to ensure we're seeing that, particularly K through 6th grade. So that would be one intervention as well, but also where you may be, the teacher, someone on the campus may be also pulling them for additional small group and interventions as well too. So when we're looking at some of our progress monitoring measures that we put in place, we've increased a higher frequency, particularly for our students that are not at grade level or meeting the standards yet, where we're monitoring that on a higher frequency as well so that we can intervene more quickly.
Dr. Tinsley, did you also want to address the new role at Sloan this school year as well?
Yes, so we added a MTSS lead at Sloan, which is similar to what we have over at Hart and Puster. So that role, they have two primary roles. One is to serve as an instructional coach on the campus to assist teachers with planning, professional development, planning for interventions would be one, but also that position will also be pulling some of our small groups as well. So that would mean a double dip for those students who need that. And then I've listed also our math performance. Again, you'll see some areas where gains were made or we stayed steady, but we also saw some areas of decrease, and that will be, that was noted in some of our strategies, our response strategies with achieving these House Bill 3 goals that I shared with you during the last meeting. You will also see these coming forward with our draft of our district improvement plan and our campus improvement plan. You'll see performance objectives that are targeting these areas for needed growth.
Are there any other questions?
How should we be interpreting the balance between meets and masters? Like in a district like ours, should we be expecting to see more kids mastering, or we just base it on the meets?
Well, we always want to see an increase in that area as well too, and I do believe, and what Mr. James asked earlier, I'm sorry, that question you asked, the correlation, that's one of the areas that I do think MAP does have some correlation on projected success on the STAR assessment. So we believe using that additional assessment with also some increase of some of our common formative assessments, which we're using with all students, we should be able to differentiate for some of our higher performing students to reach that master's level.
Whenever we get the results on the 7th grade math results, where it's 45% meets, what are we doing to make sure those kids get caught up so they can be successful in the following year?
I'll keep in mind, and I shared this at an earlier meeting when I shared some of the data, that's a very small group of our students because the majority of our students are taking our Algebra 1. So these are some of our students that are that require a higher level of support. So we have those supports in place. They also may be some of our students who are receiving specialized services through some needs that they have as well too. So generally, you're going to see that area is a little bit lower because we don't have a high number of our students that are administered that test.
What was our goal percentage on that one?
On 7th grade, we wouldn't have had a goal on that one because that's not part of House Bill 3 goals. Now the campus, that is an area that the campus at Willow Springs, they will be building that into their campus improvement plan.
So the MAP scores, though, they will help you differentiate that additional support that these students would see on the deficiencies they had here in STAR.
Absolutely, yes, yes. And even you would see gaps with some of our higher performing students as well too. That's what Mrs. Dodd was talking about earlier. We have students that will be high performing, but they also have some gaps, so that's where MAP does allow us to identify that area.
I guess what I was asking in terms of, you know, they have certain kinds of questions on STAR that may be different than the questions on MAP, but the content area is the same. So when they're looking at MAP, they're looking at skill sets that they need to achieve, not necessarily that the question was the same or
Right.
better or worse or whatever.
Correct.
And that was kind of where I was going with my question earlier, was if we can see that our percentiles are trending towards a certain area on MAP through the year, does that give us a high level of conviction that we're going to achieve similar percentiles at the end of the year STAR tests? Or is it, that's where I was asking about, is there a real correlation there? Like if they were hitting 80 percentile across the board on their MAP tests, we'd be very surprised if they didn't do well on the STAR test at the end of the year as well.
Correct. And keep in mind, we are moving into our third year of implementation with MAP. So anytime you administer a new assessment, there is calibration with training and the administration. And you heard Mrs. Dodd talk about that it was taking students several days. That was never the intent for that test to be administered over time like that. So we are anticipating that this third year, our outcomes are going to look very different. And I say that in a way that, I guess, a more reliable outcome. MAP is one area. We also administer what we call district benchmark assessments that gives us an opportunity to see where our students are, how are performing, and we'll administer those in the fall and in the spring. There are a couple of assessments that we are also using what the state of Texas offers, what they call interim assessments. An example of one that we elected to take was the 5th grade science, because that was a new set of standards that were being assessed. And if you look across the state, 5th grade science was just not a strong area. So that tells you when you're putting in a new test and some new standards that you're assessing, that you're more than likely going to see some percentages like that as well too. So we use various measures. We really do stress though with our teachers that the more timely the intervention can occur, we have a better chance of closing the gap. So that's why we depend a lot on our interim assessments. We also have our teachers have access to a bank of assessment questions that they can build their common formative assessments on that would be assessing some of those gap areas that we've identified.
The emphasis, though, is making sure the teacher has the things they need to work directly with the student. They're not having to invent all of this for each individual student. They have tools ready to go when it's time to address that student's needs, ready to go, and they can pull them apart or pull them away from the rest of them, create a group that helps them address it.
Right.
Thus the quadrants that you see in the map.
Correct. So, for example, I was on a campus today. The teacher, it was during a language arts classroom. She had a group of students pull back that she was working on a targeted skill with, and then those particular students also got additional support right after that, so that another teacher was in the classroom pulling them for another skill that they were working on. So that's just an opportunity to expand some targeted support for our students.
So in that case, that was a team teaching kind of
A co-teach
activity, co-teaching.
situation, yes.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate the additional data. Of course, our agenda item is to consider and act on the proposed HB3 goals. So trustees, I'll ask if there are any additional questions. If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the HB3 goals as recommended by the administration.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So thank you, board. As Dr. Tinsley mentioned and indicated to us, is that these approved HB3 goals would be incorporated into the district and campus improvement plans, and those items will come before the board at a future meeting. All right, agenda item number 18 is a presentation on our SB 12 implementation, including grievance resolution process and district of innovation options. So following the passage of SB 12 in the last legislative session, there are some changes with regard to parent conflict resolution process for school districts, also called the grievance process, that we need to review as a board. We will consider any options we may have to implement these changes in a way that both provides expanded rights to our parents while also ensuring that the district has all of the necessary structures in place to be set up for success from a compliance perspective. So presenting, we have Dr. Zambezi.
Good evening. Thank you for having me again. So tonight we will be going over SB 12 implementation and updates. We will start with an overview of some of the changes in SB 12, especially some of the areas that you've recently seen district communication on with our stakeholders and parents. From there, we will deep dive grievances and then look at our District of Innovation process and talk about possible options moving forward for us to consider through our District of Innovation plan or designation. First off, as an overview, I want to talk a little bit about Senate Bill 12 and required parental rights forms. TEA was required to develop a form for use by school districts in providing information about parental rights and options. And as of mid-September in Lovejoy ISD, we have shared that with parents. I believe that date was September 18th when this form went out. And it is about, if you click on it, it is about a 4-page form and has several different topics in it. And some of the topics include school options, instructional materials, GPA and rank, health services, gifted and talented, special education, and many others. And that kind of exemplifies the depth of SB 12 in itself. It is a large bill with far-reaching branches. Lots of procedures will be impacted by it, and our district has worked hard to work through that. And I mentioned this form addresses many things. The last paragraph in it is actually grievances in the district's grievance process. And so the rest of this presentation tonight will be a deep dive of the historical FNG local grievance process prior to SB 12, the current SB 12 language of grievances. We'll do a comparative analysis with a chart, and then we'll go into DOI options, District of Innovation options, and talk about those options for us under DOI moving forward. And before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about grievances in Lovejoy ISD. We have 3,890 approximate students in Leopards, right? And those students are so important to us, and we want to make sure that they have the highest learning experiences possible, that they're safe, that their families are having a great experience. And when you think the word grievance in Lovejoy ISD, that could have a negative connotation, but what we really strive to do is partner with those stakeholders and pull them closer and really come to a resolution. None of those students and none of those parents and guardians do we ever want to have a bad experience. And so it's always our goal as staff members and administrators to pull them closer and really partner. And so tonight as we go over these grievance processes, I'd like to keep that in mind because we'll come back to some of those feelings. All right. New grievance timelines under SB 12. A grievance filed by a person standing in parental relation to a student enrolled has 60 days to file a grievance from the date on which the person knew the facts giving rise to the grievance. If the parent or person engaged in informal attempts to resolve the grievance, the later of 90 days to file a grievance from the date described by subparagraph 1. 30 days to file a grievance from the date on which the district provided information to a person regarding how to file the grievance. And a person then has 20 days to file an appeal. And so some points on this slide to remember, generally 60 days to file a grievance under SB 12. 90 days, a lot of our stakeholders do try to informally work with us to resolve some of these problems. And so that would be 90 days to file a grievance in that example. The next slide goes into appeals, which 20 days. For an appeal hearing that is not before the Board of Trustees of the school district, the district must hold a hearing not later than the 10th day after the date on which the grievance or appeal was filed, and a written decision must be made not later than the 20th day after the date on which the hearing was held that includes any relief, et cetera, et cetera. For a hearing before the Board of Trustees of the school district, the board must hold a meeting to discuss the grievance not later than the 60th day after the date on which the previous decision on the grievance was made, and make a decision on the grievance not later than the 30th day after the date on which the meeting is held. So under SB 12, if you read through the paragraphs, this is verbatim the language of the grievance process. Now, we talked about comparative analysis. And so prior to SB 12, a parent or a stakeholder had 15 district business days to file the grievance. And then you'll see a pattern here of 10, 10, 10, right? So 10 district business days to file a complaint, 10 district days to have the conference, 10 district days for a written reply. And then if it goes all the way to level 3 under the historical F&G process or prior to SB 12, then it would be at the next reasonable time frame board meeting to hear a level 3. Now, if you go to the right and you start comparing this, you'll see the 60 days and the 90 days we talked about to file a complaint, and then you'll see 10 days to file and hold the conference, or I'm sorry, 10 days to hold the conference and then 20 days to respond in writing, and you'll see that pattern all the way down to response to level 3 complaint. And then a point I was going to make on the last slide, and then now in this bottom box, the last part seems different, but it's really about the same timeline. Hearing, if it goes to a level 3, hearing by the board 60th day after the date in which the previous decision was made, and a decision made by the 30th day following that hearing. Since, for instance, this year, if under the historical F&G process, if we got a grievance, level 3 appeal on November 7th, we wouldn't be hearing that until the December board meeting. Because of new timelines and restrictions, we would actually be hearing it then, and then we would go through our response process. And so really, if you look at it, the only kind of difference on this chart is up top in the first box with 15 district business days versus the 60 in the 90-day examples. And so we will refer back to this chart as we have conversations, questions, and things like that, and we're going to go into some District of Innovation options on these next few slides. And so you will notice that exemption options under DOI can be a few things. We are considering or recommending clarifying the definition of day to mean district business day. And so on the right of that chart, you saw days, and on the left, you saw district business days. And then also, the level 1 filing, we did point out that difference. So a person standing in parental relation to a student, we are considering the recommendation of having 20 district business days to file a grievance from the date on which the person knew the facts giving rise to the grievance. And we will get back to that. The other part of SB 12 language states that new evidence at different levels of the grievance process can be brought forward for presentation. We are totally fine with hearing new evidence in our grievance process. We want the best information so we can partner with that stakeholder and make the right and best decision to come to a resolution. So we're not saying that you can't bring it forward. We're just clarifying with this possible exemption that we would limit new evidence to that it falls under procedural regularity where a situation happened where it prevented the evidence from being available, or if the evidence would have changed the outcome at the lower level. And of course, we would accept evidence that wasn't available at the time becomes available after the lower level's decision. If we had a level 1 hearing and then at level 2, in between that time period, there was new information that no one could have known, and then they share it, that is totally considerable in the grievance process. It just clarifies what and when to bring forward. So as we move back to this chart, a couple different things. Let's go over the possible exemptions that we can discuss and consider tonight, right, under DOI. 60 days and 90 days. Well, if a parent tries to resolve or a stakeholder tries to resolve a situation with campus administration, and that would open up that 90-day window. Our administrators are extremely hardworking, and we would actually love to hear the complaint and come to a resolution within 20 school district business days. And that is actually 5 days longer than our current process. And then if you think on the reverse side of that, and you're thinking about looking back on a timeline, if you're the level 1 hearing officer and we've already tried to informally resolve the situation, and then 90 days pass, and then a grievance is filed, that is a long investigation timeline for our administrators to go back and look at documentation, look at evidence, look at things like camera footage. And back to the first point, we would really know about the seriousness of this situation and partner with that stakeholder and that family as soon as possible to come to a resolution much sooner than a timeline that could be looking at 90 to triple digits when something in writing is actually given to that family. And so that's some things to think through and consider on that one. The next one is, we've talked about it a little bit already, district business days versus days, right? And so, for instance, if you had a level 1 grievance filed on December 19th on a school year, and that was the day that we got out for winter break, we would need to find a way to hear that grievance, right? Because it's days. District business days gives us a color-coded calendar that we've all seen to be able to count the days and know when we needed to have the hearing by, when we needed to respond by. And that 20, if you actually inserted a 20 in this top right corner right here, it actually goes along with the pattern pretty well. And if you were to consider changing just that tag to district business days, you actually have a process that is either 10 or 20 in its district business days, and it can be understood by all of our stakeholders, K through 12, all of our parents, and that's an easy pattern to remember. And so just in the spirit of increasing communication, increasing quality investigations, and partnering with our stakeholders on a very timely but understandable grievance process moving forward is definitely some things we need to take a look at, because in District of Innovation language, it's talking about ways to be able to exempt yourself from things to carry out the district's mission and vision, which we know with us revolves around excellence. So, I encourage you to ask questions, take a look at these, if we think that it could make our grievance policy even better, right? Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation, and I appreciate what you said around kind of the goal of this program, right, is to achieve resolution, right? It is to work with parents on concerns to get to a point where we've solved that, right? So the moving from just a regular day to a business day makes a lot of sense to me, just because we don't always have folks on staff or at the administration building on every single calendar day. So I feel like in some ways that would actually elongate some of the options for parents.
That's correct.
During
Yes,
that
ma'am.
period of time. Okay, that makes sense to me. And also what you said on the quality of investigations. I assume we're not retaining like video footage out indefinitely, right?
Right. It's my understanding that the software storage platform that we use does have limits, and I doubt that it's 60 days.
Or 90 days.
And so that could create some problems right there, which goes back to kind of talking about we need to hear from our parents that are concerned, and we don't want that situation to go on for 60 or 90 days and still extend it beyond that 15 historical district business day limit.
I hear more that it's not just resolution, but it's actually timely resolution, not just we're going to get this resolved. Because our interest as a board is the interest of the student.
Right.
And the quicker we can address that student's needs by resolving the process while our staff is here, able to resolve it, I think is a good choice.
Absolutely. And to pair your question with an earlier question, pairing timelines that are district business days that are even a little bit longer when you look at them on paper with the spirit of your feedback right there is exactly what we want to do and what we need to take a look at for our kids.
We've talked about business days. Are we also needing to kind of give some commentary on documentation at each level?
So one of the things I wanted to ask is, so when you talk about procedural regularity and consideration of evidence that was not available at the time, and or would have changed the outcome, we're talking about consideration of new evidence at different levels down the process. I mean, is it your understanding that that's something that we've typically already done in the past, if there was new evidence that just became available, or if we knew it might have had a change in the outcome, maybe a remand to the prior level is, what's
Yes.
advisable. So you're talking about that, but I want to make sure you're not talking about changes to the relief sought at each level, right? That would still be the same. The relief at level 1 should be the relief sought at 2 and at 3, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We would, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just making a distinction, right? And-
Yes, sir. And to elaborate on that, that procedural regularity is even if the investigation itself were to be shown to have missed something, or that same thing, that administrator or the level 2 hearing officer could use it, because if the administrator became aware in the investigation that wasn't within those 10 district business days, right, then we would definitely do the right thing, circle everyone up, and make sure that the right evidence was examined on decision X if in that situation.
Yeah, just, I mean, it makes sense to me. If we're talking to staff or we're talking to students, we're gathering like statements of what happened. I would imagine that gathering those sooner is going to yield a more accurate depiction of the order of events than if we're waiting 90 days. That seems unusual.
Absolutely.
Any additional guidance or feedback on this item? And so in terms of next steps, you would take this feedback into consideration and then propose a change to the DOI plan as you see appropriate?
Absolutely. So we basically put these, basically got everyone on the same page with the historical and the new information, did the comparative analysis, were able to have discussions, and then put some possible future recommendations through the DOI process. And so the DOI recommendations would come at a future board meeting. At time, hypothetically, if those were approved to be adopted into our DOI plan and added to our DOI plan, it then would open up essentially a 2-week process where we would then fill out forms to get that added and do the clerical work on that end.
Parting thoughts? No? All right. Thank you very much. So trustees, we do not have action today. We will be addressing this at a future board meeting. The next 2 agenda items, number 19 and 20, are related to our bond program and facility planning. Agenda item 19, bond update presentation. Mr. Percival and Mr. Woolman. Go all the way back.
Good evening, Board. Mr. Willman and I would like to provide a brief update on both some 2025 bond items as well as that of the 2014 bond. And so just to refresh everyone's memory, sorry, I'm going to raise this up just a hair. Maybe not. We wanted to recap a brief timeline going back to the May 3rd bond election and just kind of walking this thing forward. So you'll see there, beginning on May 29th through July 28th, RFQ and selection process for professional architectural and design services went out. That's quite a timely process, but one that was necessary to get us up to the point where we are now in relation to that architect. And then beginning July 28th through August the 26th, you'll see there that board approval for the sale of bonds and closing on the first issuance occurred during that time frame. And then beginning August 15th up through September 26th, contract negotiations and finalization with DOK to onboard them here within the district for both professional architectural and design services. And so next steps would be that we would, and really why we wanted to recap this is because there was a lot of energy and a lot of work that went behind kind of getting the bond proposed, and you guys authorized the election process to take off. Voters went out and voted, approved for the 5 propositions. Went through the summer, and then things kind of seemed like they get quiet. And I just want you guys and the public to realize that things are still moving in a positive direction. There are just some things that are a little bit less glamorous that have to happen before we actually see these projects start to take shape. But we're getting really close. And so beginning now up through October 27th, which will be the next board meeting for October, we will ask the board for the approval of a bond implementation charter, actually tonight. And then if you look at October 1st, the RFP process, we project that to take shape for construction manager at risk somewhere between October 1st and mid-November. And then in November, we would like to convene for the first time that bond implementation committee, of course, pending your approval of both the charter and committee membership at the October board meeting. And so just a brief recap, these are the first initial projects that are part of that installment number 1 that was authorized and that happened back in August. Those are technology upgrades, both devices and software, work over at baseball and softball, tennis facilities, including court resurfacing, nets, windscreens, and the backboard over at the Willow Springs Court. Transportation, that's bus purchases and rider safety equipment, along with the bubble replacement there at the Natatorium and pool and facility upgrades. Those are all items that we will engage and manage internally as a district. Those are not items that we will lean on the architect for their expertise. We'll manage those internally. And then I wanted to highlight some system failures down there at the bottom that are part of that 2025 bond, but that needed to be mitigated as a result of failure over the past several weeks. That includes a rooftop unit over at the LHS competition gym. We're in the process of getting that unit replaced, but that's an allowable expenditure for the 2025 bond project because that unit would have been replaced as part of that refresh. Natatorium roof repairs have happened over the past few weeks. 2 hot water heater replacements at LHS, along with a geothermal well repair that had to happen out in front of the high school. Any questions on those items before we talk finance with Mr. Willman? Okay, thank you.
Good evening. So the district currently stands at roughly $89.7 million of bond proceeds. It's a consolidation of both the 2025 issuance and the 2024 issuance. So what we can see here is that in the 2024 issuance, we still have roughly $9.4 million. So this is the final installment of the 2014 projects. You may recall that with the 2024 issuance, the district does have 3 years to spend down the bond proceeds. So that gives us roughly a little over a year and a half to do so. So with that being said, I'll hand it back over to Mr. Percival, and he'll walk you through some of the potential projects that we can address with the use of these bond funds.
Question, Thomas, on this. So the
Yes.
2021 interest that's showing down there, so I see the 2021 issuance was spent down basically completely, but then you have
That's right.
interest coming in. Does that go towards?
That's just overall since the issuance of the 2021 bonds.
So that's incorporated within the
already
cash
incorporated.
inflows already? So the interest we see at the bottom is already incorporated with the cash flows at the top?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So for the 2014 bond expenditures, these are proposed and will be brought forth for consideration at the October 27th board meeting. Would include track resurfacing at Leopard Stadium, concession and commons areas over at Leopard Stadium that would include roof equipment, HVAC, and restroom renovations. There are a total of 4 of those there at Leopard Stadium. Scoreboard controls there at Leopard Stadium. These are items that were actually part of the 2025 bond proposal, but that were not successful. They were not supported by voters, but we still have to have a plan to mitigate the need, and so we're going to bring those back for consideration in October. And then I've got an asterisk down there where it says windscreens at Leopard Stadium. This is something that, out of necessity, we went ahead and completed prior to the season starting over in Leopard Stadium. Those were completed with M&O funds. If the trustees wish to do a reimbursement utilizing the 2014 bond funds, that's always an option. And so I just wanted to lift that out and put an asterisk.
Are there any other items we could look at that we spent M&O out of that we could look at as reimbursement?
I feel like we've done a pretty good job of bringing those forward. This one, because of the time constraints and the turnaround time, we didn't have time for the next board meeting to ask for that authorization, so we went ahead and paid using M&O. But if we do get into situations like that, we'll make sure to always bring that for consideration.
Will you look back at the history of our M&O spending to see if there's any of those that we could reimburse?
Absolutely.
What is the timing on those repairs or updates?
So you can expect the track resurfacing. That's something that has to happen after we go to state, so the very end of May. So that'd be a summer project.
I like your optimism.
Same thing with those concession areas and the work over at Leopard Stadium. The scoreboard controls might be something depending on if we have to do software updates and there's any work that needs to be done to the main scoreboard. We don't obviously do anything that would be disruptive during the season. And then, of course, the windscreens have already been completed.
Are these projects meant to take up the rest of that 9.4 million, or should we expect more projects coming through?
We will have additional projects. Yes, ma'am. Great question.
Will the committee be reviewing those, or are they going to be looking solely at the 2025?
That's a really good question. As part of that charter that we'll get into shortly, we're going to incorporate both 2014 and 2025. There will actually be a little bit of integration when it comes to those remaining 2014 bond funds with some of the projects that are part of that 2025. An example would be flooring and fixtures that were kind of backed out of some of our campuses that we still have a need. We need to look at furniture, we need to look at flooring, we need to look at some fixtures in some of our non-renovated campuses.
And at one board meeting, we pushed off doing, I think, library furniture. And so that's something that committee could look at as well.
Yes, sir. So previously authorized 2014 bond expenditures, if you'll remember, back in March on the 31st, trustees approved and authorized $300,000 in funding from that 2014 bond sale for items related to mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and safety. These were allocated and intended to minimize disruptions to the learning environment by enabling timely response and maintenance needs and repairs, and to support a safe and effective educational setting. So these were those items that we talked about. The most recent ones were countertops and sink replacements over at Puster Art Lab. Those degraded rather quickly due to a minor leak, a lift station pump at the high school, and then a backflow preventer back there near the stadium at LHS. And then requested board action, kind of the timeline of what to expect this evening. One of the items that's coming up next, I believe, is to consider approval of the bond implementation charter. We talked about that during the August meeting and went through a presentation, but we wanted to bring that back for consideration and possible action tonight. And then in October, we'll have some specific projects with pricing that will hit both the 2025 and the 2014 bond funds. Any questions that Mr. Wellman or myself could answer?
I guess not a question as much as a comment that I assume is kind of part of this process. I know the 2014 funds, we only have until end of 27, or is it a three-year window, basically? So May of 27, middle of 27 to spend that money, but it's also money that doesn't have some of the same limitations tied to some of the 2025 funds, so that balancing act of maintaining the flexibility of those previous issuance versus what we have now, that's just, we need to spend the money by the timeline, but we want to maintain flexibility along the way. So appreciate your efforts in making that happen.
That's a great point and something that we're keenly aware of for sure.
Before we move forward to the Bond Implementation Committee, are there any other questions on bond projects? All right, so agenda item number 20 will be to consider an act on the Bond Implementation Committee charter. As Mr. Percival said, we did receive a presentation from the administration at our August 25th meeting. They provided a proposal for the size and membership of the committee, as well as its meeting cadence and its proposed scope of work. So in the interest of an efficient meeting, rather than stepping through the attached committee proposal materials a second time, I propose that we move directly to deliberations. Trustees, are there any questions?
During this, if this committee is voted on, can the committee look at any land we have to see any uses for it or future plans for it?
That is certainly something we can discuss with the committee. That is something we had planned to bring forward to the board. That is something right now that Mr. Percival is gathering information for the board.
No additional questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the Bond Implementation Committee Charter as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So board, one additional point of discussion we have on this item is our participation in the Bond Implementation Committee. Under Board Policy BDF Local, advisory committee meetings may also include board participation, numbers less than a quorum of the board. I'd like to check if we are in agreement that we would each rotate through these committee meetings 3 at a time, which is our typical past practice. I believe we have a consensus. Thank you. So board, as we come to the end of our meeting tonight, we have a few announcements and updates. Agenda item number 21 is our superintendent announcements. Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, Madam President, and I am very excited to announce that Lovejoy's legacy of excellence very much continues, and we have yet another first in Lovejoy, and that would be our first time to have 2 presidential scholars in the arts. And each year there are only 20 presidential scholars in the arts that are named in the entire nation, and Lovejoy ISD has 2. And so that means that 10% of them are Lovejoy ISD students. And so that would be Caroline Matthews and Veronica Ye. And they are absolutely incredible young women who graduated in the class of 2025, and to have gotten the pleasure to have watched their body of work develop over the years at all of the art shows that we got to go to support them. This is very, very remarkable, and such an incredible, remarkable accomplishment for them as individuals, for our visual arts program, and for our visual arts teachers. Mr. McCaslin shared the news with us today, and we are just so proud of the program, our teachers, and our students, and the level of excellence. I have to share with you what Clive Chang, the president and CEO of the Young Arts Program, said, that the 2025 class of U.S. Presidential Scholars in the Arts inspires us to think creatively and critically about the world around us. It is a thrill to have these young change makers in the young arts community, and we look forward to supporting these artists through their career. And another piece of data to keep in mind is that, okay, so there were 20 in the nation, and Caroline was the only student in design, so she was one of one. And then Veronica was one of only 4 in the visual arts. So that makes them, and they both are considered visual artists. So they were 2 of 5 in the nation. So Lovejoy has 40% of the visual artists in the United States that were recognized. So well done, Caroline and Veronica.
Thank you. So agenda item number 22 is our TASB Delegate Assembly update. So trustees, at our June 4th board workshop, the board nominated Mr. Marvin Bobo as our delegate to the 2025 Delegate Assembly. Our board operating procedures provide that any liaison, or in this case delegate, will provide updates and insights back to the full board. So I'd like to invite Mr. Bobo to give us an update on his travels.
Traveling to Houston was not a great experience. I chose to drive. And I could have gone to the airport, waited 3 hours, and flown and got a new car at the new airport before I got there driving. For whatever reason, as always, 45 is a challenge. However, I got there, Three takeaways. We have new leadership. So Tony Hopkins from Friendswood ISD is our new TASB president. I've got to actually spend time with Tony, and he is an exceptional pick. I'm so pleased with the fact that he's now our new TASB president. I think we're going to see some exciting things happen with him. Our pick for Region 10A board seat was also elected. So based on my interaction with him, both at the delegate assembly and some other activities, I'm sure that he'll be an active participant and a strong voice for our region. There was an organizational shift. The delegates adopted a new mission statement and simplified cornerstone principles. And with this, the statement of beliefs has been officially retired. What this means is we now have kind of a simple mission statement that you can read and explain instead of having a lot of complicated things. So I was really excited to vote yes on that one. The other big change was an advocacy process change. We are no longer doing an advocacy agenda resolution process. That was how we communicated to TASB what we felt they should advocate for. Instead, they will be doing a new, what they call legislative priorities project. And what that does is it actually just collects our priorities from each individual board across the state and then shares them with all of the boards across the state. And I think that will be a more effective communication tool. They had a long project to help understand and figure out what they wanted to do in that regard because the other process had low participation rates. That was basically it. It was actually a pretty clean meeting, went pretty quick.
Thank you very much for serving as our delegate. Appreciate it. So as we close our meeting tonight, I do have a few items to share. Tomorrow night, the board and district administration is hosting a community coffee talk. It will be at 5 p.m. here in this room at the LCDC library. We will be sharing information on legislative changes from the 89th legislative session, as well as answering any of your questions. The board's next regular meeting will be on Monday, October 27th, and in between now and then, the board looks forward to participating in our homecoming parade on October 6th and our homecoming game and events on October 10th, and then we wish, in between then, our Lovejoy families and staff a wonderful fall break, which will also come up soon. So, and with that, we will be adjourned